Hello and good morning, rest seekers. I'm Peggy Norwood Stella, and I want to present to you today some gentle, easy moves to challenge your balance. Well, in the past few weeks, we have done a lot of shifting our weight from one leg to the other, which is basically what balance is going to be all about. It's like walking or to locomotion. Moving is simply putting one balance point, one leg down, and then another leg down, the other leg down, and we're always just shifting our body weight from one balance point to the other, one leg to the other. But a key to maintaining our balance is understanding the movement of the pelvis. So I have brought a visual for us this morning. I've got a bowl, and it's going to represent the pelvis. So it's imagine this is like within your body, there's a leg, the legs come up underneath here, and could be, hip bones here, pubic bone here, tailbone back here, but you get the idea. This is going to be our visual. And I'm going to use this for you to sort of see what the hips are doing. So when we shift our weight and we do what we've done before, whereas you bend the knee and you watch that hip shift. If I bend this knee, right? If I bend the knee and then shift my weight over to the standing leg, a straight leg, what happens is the hip actually, right? The pelvis drops. So the hip on the bent knee side drops. And that allows the pelvis, right? It allows it to shift. So you've got the other hip that shifts that direction. So it shifts over and places the body weight on the standing leg so that you can actually move that free leg around and fairly easily without too much of a loss of balance. I'm going to put that foot right back down. I'm going to go inhale and bring it back into neutral. Neutral is we want the pelvis resting as if this were full of water. At neutral, the water's not going to be spilling out the front, the back, or the sides. Now, if shifting that weight again, bending the knee, then we'll do it to the other side. Bending the knee, right, makes the hip drop to that side. Then we shift the weight right onto, that's the body weight with the hip over here, over the standing leg, the straight leg, and you can play around. Now lifting that other leg, you can play around with it. It can move around. You've got a balance point right there. And when I put the other foot back down, and then I put that heel down, what I'm doing is bringing, the two legs evenly underneath. And so now we have a little bit of neutral. Now, if you are not engaging in the abdominals, if the transverse abdominals are really not engaged, or you have some weakness here, or even if there's tightness in the psoas, the hip flexors, you may have a tendency for the bowl to be tipped in this direction. So I will turn to the side so that if there's a tightness in this connection causing a bend, a little forward bend at the hips, you've got the pelvis slightly tilted in that direction for you to maintain your balance. So what we're going to do with the zip it motion we talk about, you think just very gently, it's like bringing the pubic bone forward and up, hip bones forward and up to bring the hips back into neutral. So I can release it, and you can, there's the angle gets broken at the hip. You may or may not be able to see it, but visually there's the angle is broken. If I bring it back into neutral, Then I actually have the straight line, so I'm in alignment from the crown of my head through my shoulders, right? The hips are in alignment if they're in neutral, standing over two legs. So you see, when we do that back and forth shift, we're doing it from a neutral pelvis, bend a knee, shift the weight, and stand on that leg. Back to two legs. Bring it back into neutral. Bend the knee, shift to the other side. You can see that the pelvis is sort of the point where motion is going to take place, and that the largest shift of weight is going to take place. So we bend a knee, shifting the pelvis. Both legs straight, pelvis in neutral. Bend a knee to one side, straight, bring it back into neutral. So you can play around with that side-to-side motion and imagine that you've got a bowl in the pelvis, and what we're doing is allow the water to slosh out each side as you go side to side. So that's one way of kind of understanding that weight shift from one leg. Bend and allow the hip to slip, and go ahead and do what you need to just send it over and keep everything else in alignment. That way you can lift. Look, play with that leg as much as you want. Good. Place it back down, both legs straight, and you're coming back into neutral. Bend the other knee. Boop, there we go. So that hip slips right on out to the side here. And you just let your weight settle on that leg and play around with the standing leg. It's pretty amazing if you maintain the alignment. And really the one thing that shifted is the pelvis shifting side to side, allowing you to firmly place that weight on that side. And if you were aligned in the upper body, it becomes quite simple. When there's lack of alignment in other places, it's going to show up. You may have a lot more trouble with your balance here than you realize. But what we're doing with this is simply playing with it and seeing if you can begin to feel what that's like, to allow the pelvis to slip back and forth. And if you've got not a lot of motion in the hip, simply thinking about this motion will actually improve the motion. So you really don't have to go into a lot of stretching to make this happen, or strengthening to make this happen. What we're trying to do is just to allow the hip motion to happen naturally, and what's okay for your body. Because I may have an unusual or more mobility than normal in the pelvis, and for others it may be less. It's totally okay. So the reason we play around with these moves is for you to find what seems right for you, or if you're beginning to feel that you can change the position of the pelvis and you're changing your point of balance, and you play around with this. We call it dancing. Basically, we're dancing from one leg to the other. We're just doing it with a sense of control. So now I want to place an additional challenge. So we're going to take some other moves that we've learned. Last week we did 2 weeks ago, slow commotion, when we moved very slowly and deliberately, walking forward, shifting our body weight, shifting the hips. We're going to play with that a little bit. I'm going to take the bowl, and I want you to visually see what we're trying to do. So from a standing position, we're going to bend one knee, allow the hips to shift so that you now have your body weight on the standing leg. Then just kind of feel your way back with your toes. So the knee, you don't want the knee back behind the other leg. You can just let the knee be bent and you just slide those toes back behind you. And then place the ball of the foot down and then place, then place the foot down, the heel down, and you'll feel that your hips just shifted back away from the standing leg and now is between the two legs. Can you feel that shift occurred for you? So now you've got weight, right? And if you go ahead and think neutral, and it may mean that zipping, think of forward and up with the pelvis. Now you will know too that the pelvis is now slightly on a diagonal because you stepped back. So, and I can't show the diagonal very well, but your pelvis has moved on the diagonal from the forward leg towards the back leg. Now, if you want to continue that motion, let's say, I want to shift my weight back. What do? We've got to get the pelvis to move back. So I'm going to change my relationship with the floor. I'm going to push into the ball of my foot up front. And what's that going to do? It allows me to begin to shift the pelvis back in this direction. And when I can get it over that standing leg, I might have to really kind of point that toe, and it shifts, and I can lift that leg. There I am. Now, if that's really hard to do, you may have taken a step that's too big for you. It's not a very big step at all. So now I'm going to put my toes back down, and you'll see that the pelvis is back here, and it has tilted towards the free leg. And now I'm going to put the ball of the foot down, and now I'm going to put the heel down and allow the hip, you'll feel that pelvis moving forward towards that. And now if I want to align to the front leg, I'm going to have to lift the heel behind, That's going to lift the pelvis up, and then we're going to press through that foot and let the pelvis come forward. And if you want to free that up, bend that back leg. So now we've got this. Here's what's going on. So this is an amazing, amazing way to shift, and for you to feel that it's this shifting back and forth in the pelvis that's allowing you to find that balance point each and every time. We're going at it super slow and letting you kind of move through this and feel this. But slow motion, believe it or not, the slower you go, the more you can get it ingrained into your neurophysiology. So you're going to pick up that pattern, and then as you begin to be able to run through it faster, forward, boom, I can go back and forth between the two. And that's off that forward leg. Can you pick up that forward leg? Can you shift the weight back underneath you to the back leg enough that you can actually have freedom in the forward leg? And here we go. Ball the foot down, heel down, bring the hips back into neutral between the 2 points. And solid on 2 feet. Then lift the heel behind and slide it forward. And you can release there, and you can feel that we have now shifted the hip over to the other side, got a free leg back here. So I'm going to put it down beside me. Come back to neutral, and I'm going to bend the other knee. Boom, there we go. So now we're going to play around on the other leg a little bit. Right? So now shifted. Can you lift that leg and move it around? You can do little circles, holding your balance on that side. Now place the toes down behind, not directly behind you, just place them behind you. This is not a reach back, it's just kind of letting the leg hang in the socket, bend the knee, put the toes back behind you. And here we go. Place the ball of the foot down and then place the heel down. And now we've had the pelvis has moved on a slight diagonal back onto that standing leg. So now we're standing in between the two. To move to the back leg and free the front leg, we're going to change that point of balance. Lift the heel in front and think of pushing the hip a little further back. And then when you bend that forward knee, you actually have hit that point of balance. And you've got that freedom of motion. Now I'm going to put the toe right back down. The ball of the foot goes down and the heel goes down. I'm in neutral. And now I'm going to move it forward. Lift the heel behind. Feel you're going to be lifting the pelvis up from behind and then allowing it to slide forward into place, right? Forward into place on the standing leg. And then bend the back knee. Allow the weight to settle on the standing leg. And you have freedom on that standing leg. You've got freedom of the other leg. It's just kind of amazing if we just play around with this. I'm going to put the foot back down. I'm going to shift it back again. Ball of the foot, the heel. Let the weight shift between both legs. If you really just let this go, feel like if you just let go here with no control in the abs, you're going to probably find that just naturally the hip will shift back towards the back leg. We're going to help it. We're going to push a little bit off the ball of the forward foot and all the way into the toes and see if we can give ourselves a little shift of the body weight back. So this just a little help from the floor. Bending the knee. And you can see that I am in this alignment. I'm very grounded on the standing leg. I've allowed the pelvis to move and hold me there. And I have some freedom here to place this foot where I want to go. Now you can think of the beauty of this in trying to keep your balance. And put that toe right back down again. Heel down. And I'm going to bring it back to neutral, just standing. So now I'm standing one foot forward in front of the other in neutral. And I'm going to go from the heel behind, lift the heel behind. Really feel the pelvis, feel what's happening in the pelvis. It's lifting from behind. And then you're going to give it a little help as you shift your body weight forward, allowing the pelvis to move. So it's moving underneath you. And as long as you're in alignment in your upper body, you're just pulling the pelvis into alignment with this from here to here and placing the body weight on top of that leg. Bend the back leg and feel it settle. And feel the freedom of motion now that you have. And where can you place that leg? You can place it in front, you can place it beside, you can go back, and you can place it behind, which is what I'm going to do. Toe down, ball of foot, heel, come back to neutral. So putting this aside, now we'll play around with this. I want to move on to the forward leg. So what I do, I'm going to press, like lift the heel behind. Let the pelvis come forward. Bend the back knee and settle onto the standing leg. I'm going to bring that foot right up underneath me. Inhale, shift to neutral, legs side by side. Exhale and bend the opposite knee. Step back. Ball of the foot, then the heel. So you're standing on two straight legs with the pelvis in between. Now move the pelvis to the back leg, pushing through the forward leg. You're going to lift the heel and push back, push that pelvis back. If you bend the knee, you'll feel it right settle into place. And there's your free range of motion. So you can check that each time. Heel down, from behind, lift, bring it forward, bend, place that leg up underneath, and in a neutral stand. So we've gone side, side, doing a lot of back and forth with this. But if you just come back to this and just sort of visualize what's going on in the pelvis, the mobility and your ability to move the pelvis in a multitude of directions, and your ability to control how the body moves in relationship to that, you're going to have so much more balance and control in everything you do. So I'm going to encourage you to please check and balance through this. See what's going on in your own body. See how much range of motion do you have? Do you need to make the steps smaller to make this happen? See what the challenges might be in your body or what seems easy, and then try, if it seems easy, you can try increasing the size of the steps, increasing the distance that you have to move that body weight from one to the other. But what you're trying to achieve at all times is to maintain the alignment, right, from the hips, rib cage, shoulders, neck, head. Maintain that alignment, and that's what's going to allow you to be able to move the pelvis, legs underneath you. So that's going to be your practice for this week. I think next week what I'm going to do is I'm going to show the pivot point of the hips so that you can actually begin to do more movement and change how the pelvis is moving, change the direction that it's moving. But right now we've got it moving, in planes forward and back and on the diagonal. And you have lots to play with. Now this is something that, even like the most advanced dancer, the most advanced athlete can still find puzzles, can still find the questions in their body, like, what can I do with this? Play with it, experiment with it, have fun with this, and we'll be back again next Monday with some gentle, easy moves for you to practice and challenge your balance, and for you to dance with gravity. Thank you so much. If you were able to join me here live, please let me know how this feels when you begin practicing it on your own. You can come back to the replay. Just put your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And if you've got some friends or family that you feel like could be benefiting themselves from these gentle, easy moves, please feel free to invite them to join us here in Rest Seekers, because there's a lot of exploring to do. Thanks for joining me this Monday morning, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye.